It's been a year since I posted my videos on the Gospel of Thomas, my interpretations. And in that time frame, I've made a lot of advancements, not with the Gospel of Thomas, but with the body of work that comes from that entire region. And certainly the Gospel of Thomas and the works of Jesus fit into that category. To that end, I have better explanations as to how you read this stuff. And I want to cover first how this is going to happen. I will tell you that the Gospel of Thomas contains steps, interactive steps that provide the way to self-enlightenment. And you can find those there. There's a certain way to read it. There's a certain way to look at it. And this is something that is demonstrable. This isn't going to be religion. This is something that they called spiritual, and we're going to have to make an adjustment. It's going to be mental. It's going to be psychological. We're going to have to interact with it. The Gospel of Thomas, in my view, is not Gnostic. There is nothing in there that references anything that comes from Gnostic literature. Gnostics grabbed that body of work the same way as the Romans grabbed Jesus' body of work to create religions from those. I'm not going to go to those religions. The body of work existed before those religions, so we just go right to the body of work. The religions contain supernatural elements that help carry that body of work. However, when you're the seeker that is looking for self-enlightenment and you're done listening to people tell you what all the supernatural stuff is and just wait and you're like, oh my God, I've got to do something, this is where it becomes for you. This is the steps and the lessons that if you follow, you will come up with the same answers as I do. This is an interactive process. And once the process is understood, you can engage with it. The thing is that when you're going on a path like this, it's a very personal, inward-looking path. The people that are teaching you to look outward or about the physical world or something beyond here, they are delving into that realm of interpreting where you interpret it using supernatural explanations. When that part of the text actually is the carrier. That's the shell. The supernatural components are not what the teaching is. That makes sure the teaching gets disseminated. The people that are going to go inside of it are very few. And that's always been known. That will emerge in the material as well. Okay, before I get started, I will let you know that what I have my hands on is something that is visible once you see it. It is something that emerges from just pattern recognition. There's a point where you realize what they're doing and that it is so repetitive that you can begin to unlock all of the teachings from antiquity, and you find out that they're all teaching the same thing. The society back then had the same problems we have today. And it's a lot of hurt people. And that's what this is for people to heal themselves, for people to find a way to heal themselves. But that way is very difficult, and there are tools, however, very specific to unlock these verses. And when they do, everything I say will become demonstrable. There is no supernatural, just take my word for it. No, this is here. Take the tools, you look for yourself. If you're going to take this trip, only you can take it. Anybody that's leading you, they're not in your head. When you turn inward, you're on your own. That's what this is for. My name is Dan Paulson, and welcome to my channel, Just One Truth. Let's go take a look at that. I believe in ripping Band-Aids off very quickly. What does that mean? We're starting on metaphors and analogs already. This is how it's going to work. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into it. There is going to be no supernatural here. I'll let you know right off the bat. If you're looking for some sort of promise of eternal life, it won't emerge from this teaching. I'm going to show you what to look for and how to look. There are all kinds of ways for people to get supernatural life after out of this material. I won't. I can't demonstrate that. I will only tell you what I can demonstrate. So what I find here is something that tells me how to heal my pain. I came from a world where I was abused, molested, brother committed suicide. I ran away from home, eating out of garbage cans. Wife gets pregnant by somebody else. All kinds of these hurtful things. I'm starting off in life. I can assure you I am a wreck. And at some point, I need this material. It's very important to me, and this material saved my life, or saved the quality of my life, at least. I can state that I have interacted with this material in a manner that it changed my life. I am, sitting here doing videos instead of waiting out my days in jail or something. I didn't start good, and you don't have to be that extreme, but this material will help you get there. That's what I have to offer. The afterlife stuff, I'm sorry. I'll tell you everything I find. In fact, I will go so far as to tell you that what this is going to be getting to is psychology, where you look at all of the things that hurt you inside and you resolve them. Instead of turning away from them, you turn towards them with instructions to how to look at them. This is very unpopular for people because they don't want to look at what hurt them. And it can take a while for somebody to get to a point where they go, I'm going to have to do that. If somebody can kind of tolerate their life while it's in shambles and something keeps happening, they tend to let this go because it hurts to go look at the person that hurt you, to go face that stuff. It's very painful. So that's not popular material. Physician, heal thyself. That's what is going on here. And the reason I'm kind of saying this part right here up front is I know when I did the first series, I wasn't very clear about this up front, and somebody went through, they were very appreciative of my interpretation for about 5 hours worth of it, and then finally said, boy, all you do is make this about yourself. What's going on? And you're like, it's spiritual material. It's about yourself. Yeah, it is. So that needs to be up front. This is about you. It's about my life. It's about your life. These are instructions for you to take inside. You use the tools to open them up to change your life. Yeah, it is about me. It's about you. All the spiritual teachings are that way. If you read Jesus in the Bible, it's the same way. He's talking to us. Let's see how that works. If you're familiar at all with the works of Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, this idea that these stories and these teachings somehow play out in the collective and individual psyche of the human. And that is exactly what this is. That's exactly what it is. It plays out inside. There are a lot of different vehicles or genres of storytelling, as it were, to carry that lesson. There are big stories, there's small stories. If you go through the Gospel of Thomas and interpret it this way, and you went through the Tao Te Ching from Lao Tzu and the Dhammapada from Buddha and interpret them all the same way, you will find out, all three of them are identical. People think, there's a lot of similarities there. No, it's all similar. It's all similar. It's just some of it's easy to see and some of it's hard to see. Yeah, they're teaching the same thing. How do we do this? We turn it into ourselves then. We take the verse and we make the component parts of the verse about our psyche. It doesn't act out or play out in the physical world. It plays out in ourselves, in our psyche. So what do we have to work with? We have a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and then a collective unconscious that we're all a part of, that all of humanity is a part of. Those three things are happening right there. And as we live life, the conscious, which isn't there to begin with, right? When you're born, for a couple of years anyway, you don't have enough development to really figure things out. That's kind of emerging later. So our consciousness of self happens 4 or 5 years. Then what happens in that consciousness? We begin to learn things. We begin to have experiences. Our senses and our brain and our emotional experiences dictate how we remember those experiences. And that begins to wire who and what we are. We become products of the way we think about life, the way we experience life, and the way we store it away. If something happens to us that makes us feel very ashamed and we don't deal with that, we will feel that shame our entire lives. It will continue to come out. Happiness, same thing. Whatever we're putting away, that's happening. So that we have to understand as we're getting into this, that is a mental process that they are going to be addressing. And as we get into decoding things, for example, analogs, if you're familiar with the idea of the male and female in spiritual teachings, that it doesn't mean a man and a woman. It means the conscious and the subconscious. And in their culture, they're using that, and it seems like a lot of times they're denigrating the woman. That's not fair. It's not what's happening. What they're doing is using, from their culture, they're using analogs where it looks like there's a hierarchy. The man is in charge of the family, so he's in charge of what goes on. The conscious in charge of what happens to the subconscious? The subconscious puts it away. And then when the conscious isn't paying attention, the stuff that got put in the subconscious is acting out. They are using that as male, female being bad. It's simply an analog. It doesn't apply to us as a male or female individual. It applies to each and every one of us as a conscious and subconscious entity. So we have to pay attention to the analogs, that they work that way, but that there is also a hierarchy that happens within those. Now, Jesus's stay very simple, so he's a fun one to go after. You get into Judaism or Hinduism, the complexity of the stories get really huge. So Jesus' verses are compact and fun. Okay, and ensuring I stay clear, when I use terms like conscious and subconscious, what I am doing is directly translating if they are saying something like carnal mind and soul, spirit, mind, something, somehow. That's what they knew. They did not know we had a brain or this electrochemical thing going on, or they didn't know that we had a central nervous system connected to our brain that we're kind of sensing each other's emotions. All of those kind of things they don't know. So they're experiencing life in the same way that we are. However, we have a lot of knowledge they don't. We're kind of thinking they've got something mysterious going on when actually they're trying to explain what we already know. That we sense, we feel that way. And all of those magical, mystical, spiritual feelings are normal things that happen inside of us. But in order to heal a hurt soul, what is a hurt soul? I feel bad. I'm depressed. I'm possessed. Every once in a while, I scream and yell and freak out and then later go, I don't know why I did that. I'm possessed with something. Yeah, we got unresolved issues. They are looking at all of those things and giving them names. They still exist, but we can look at them and identify them for what they really specifically are. Then we can interact with them. We have an easier time working with this material than they did if we look at it and understand what it is. They're trying to heal. They're trying to figure out how to do that. And they are succeeding. And that is what they're teaching us to do, to heal. Okay, so we've identified conscious and subconscious. We got that handled. Now what about that field, that collective unconscious, this unified field? This is something that I think we can infer is there by observation. This is where we have our gut feelings, our instinctual things happen. The times you're reading somebody's mind that are obscure, that are, there's a lot of coincidence potential, I realize. But sometimes you get something that you go, where did that come from? Those are the times where you think, wow, something else is going on. But it doesn't happen all the time. It's not there all the time. It's kind of random. And I think we get so busy that we kind of disconnect from it. If we had a lot of time and a lot of peace and quiet and a lot of ease in our life and minds that were not flying off the handle, we would experience that a lot more, because I think that that's a part of, that would have been something that we evolved with, honestly, just as a big group, being able to sense danger and things like that. It would be an advantage, but it wouldn't be very clear. At any rate, we function in that field. We function together. And based on what we have stored in our mind, the divisions, the left, right, the things that we have named, the things that we have judged, the things that we have put away, the pain, the things that we haven't dealt with, based on the quality of the way we think, the way we judge, the way we perceive life, we flow through life fitting with that. So whatever we're experiencing in life is a part of what we're holding up here. And in order to change that, we have to change this. That's a very important component part, because they're all going to be teaching that as well. And you know what? I am not being clear about something right here that is super important. I'm not talking about the conscious mind and what you are actively thinking about. I'm talking about the subconscious mind and what we don't want to think about. That stuff is functioning in the background, driving our lives. We don't want to deal with it. We don't realize it's our sabotage. It's the stuff that's the stuff we have to heal ourselves from. And those very things are what they are going to allude to, are the things that dictate our quality of life, the way we experience life. There are things we hold that, maybe there's some attraction, possibly like attracts like in this case, or there's just so much of something that somebody's going to, we all have the same issues. Somebody's got your issues. You're going to get triggered. Regardless, we know that we see something playing out inside of us and that our life is unfolding because of Well, because of what we have inside of us, although if we're not far enough along, we don't realize that it's us that's doing it. We still think it's life out there. Lao Tzu would call it the way, the Tao, how you flow through life. Jesus is going to allude to something a bit different. This is like living in the graces of God, but they're analogous to the same thing. The experience, when you go through that mentally and commit to it, your experience is going to be joyful. Doesn't matter the source. It matters that you commit to it, that you believe it. You're changing mental states up here is what is happening. We can realize that and know that. We can know that to heal, that what we have is a judgment. I got molested. I am ashamed. I will never tell anybody. I'm going to hide that away. At some point in time in life, you realize, okay, I'm not hiding that away, even though I want to. It's acting out somehow, something, somewhere. Pick your own. This is for you. This is our material for us in our lives to look at. What is happening is that the way we experience that, there's an event that happened and there's an emotional state. Those are the two things that are existing in our conviction. And those are the two things that are acting out. You can't change what happened. You can change the emotional state. When we're forgiving, if you successfully forgive somebody, you have changed that perception. If you say, I forgive somebody, and you keep going, I don't know why, it's just not working. That perception is the real seed. They're going forgiveness because they don't know that where it's coming from. They don't know that origin point that we do. So we can add that degree of resolution to this teaching. We can understand that when we're forgiving or going after something, that we're going after our very specific mental perception. And you'll find that I've been doing this for a long time, and I can be very clinical about it, about dealing with your emotions. The emotions are a difficult thing. I want to say this right up front because this is a part of your process if you're going to go after this. The reason you don't go after this stuff is why. It hurts. Doesn't feel good. It's scary. It's shameful. It is all manner of things that we don't want out. Where does that come from? From an evolutionary standpoint, we would have all of those emotions because they would be important for our survival in some way, shape, or form. They are no longer important at this point in time for our survival, but those are the mechanisms that our mind, our body, our whole physiology have to make us sense something. So you're approaching something that makes you afraid, and you're probably feeling like a lion is this close to eating you and your child both as you're running away. It would be that fearful. It's over the top. You have to look at it and realize, okay, that's just my emotion keeping me from facing something that I need to go after. The emotions get in our way. The ego gets in the way first. Then the emotions get in the way. There's a lot of things we have to navigate here. The important thing for me, I think, to understand that helped me was becoming clinical to the point that I realized my life was unfolding because of what I didn't want to deal with. And if I wanted my life to change, and I was tired of it, I had to deal with this. I had gotten to that point where I realized, oh my gosh, it's all up here. And when you do that, and that happens, that's an important part of decoding these verses. If you can't do that, you won't get the verse. You won't. If you can do that, you'll be like, oh my God, I see it. All right. As we move along, the first thing we'll do is try to make the verse about ourselves, about our psyche. But I'll let you know that not all of them do that. But they don't stray far from it. They will either tell you how to heal yourself, or there'll be something very descriptive of the process. It won't wander off or go someplace supernatural. It'll be someplace that's very reasonably close that'll be visible. For example, the very first verse that they have here, these are the hidden sayings that the living Jesus spoke and Judas Thomas the twin recorded. Right there we have a couple of things, hidden sayings. Every one of them is a secret. None of them are plain language. Every one of them has to be decoded. Right there. There was no caveats. And Judas Thomas the twin. This is not a physical twin. It's probably something that is an indicator that it's a spiritual twin, somebody that had that level of knowledge, that Jesus is not the Savior. Jesus is somebody who has a body of work, and we're looking at that body of work as a teaching body of work that is accessible to us. No supernatural, remember. So that's an important thing. So this twin, why is that even important? People like the Dalai Lama, Desmond Tutu, people like that would be probably considered like spiritual twins. They would be twins, even though they're not physical twins. They're the kind of people you look at and go, that's a guru right there. Yeah, that person knows. So in the first verse, we have two things right there that is telling us we got some secret stuff coming up, but it came from a good source. So in that case right there, we saw that it told us about the material, not necessarily to forgive somebody, but you see that it's still right in this ballpark. Of course, we don't know the source, and I don't take the verse at face value anyway. Part of the search is to realize that everything you might be hearing needs to be questioned. You don't just look at it as something that is reliable. And in this case, okay, it's hidden sayings. I get that. Living Jesus, I don't know if that's the case or not, but that's not important because we have the body of work. And Judas Thomas, the twin, recorded. I don't care if there was somebody that's a guru or not. Somebody could have written that. Whoever wrote this could have put that in. What we do is we go through the material and see if it decodes. In that manner, we don't even need to have that first verse. We'll know if it's there or not. And before I get too far along, I'll let you know that I'm just going to be grabbing some verses from the Marvin Meyer translation. And I will be doing my interpretations from that. And I don't think I'm going to go through verse by verse like I did on the first one. I think in this case, what I would rather do is just kind of the teaching process. Once you see how to do this, you can go through it yourself and you'll come up with the same things, unless you have questions or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and say, read the first one. And he said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. That sounds wonderful. That's supernatural. If we take that and make it a spiritual verse, what that means then is that we will not experience a spiritual death. Presumably, as we move along, what we're going to discover is that we have already probably experienced the spiritual death. We started out without one, but then we accumulated a bunch of things. We're looking for a rebirth, which are all just analogs for clearing out our crap so that we have better lives. Death, we can't say that that's not demonstrable. If you say, no, it's not real death, it means death of your soul, your spirit, your life, your condition on life right now, that it isn't really your conscious life or death. It is your spiritual life or death. Okay, that's demonstrable. I think we can buy that. It doesn't mean anything too extraordinary, though, does it? Jesus said, let one who seeks not stop seeking until one finds. When one finds, one will be troubled. When one is troubled, one will marvel and will reign over the all. He's talking about this material right here. Don't stop seeking until you find. And when you find, you're going to be like, oh, that's troubling. Yeah, I thought this was going to be about life after forever in some happy place. But I find that it's not. But reign over the all, what is that? It's inside again. You're reigning over yourself, your life, your experience. That is what you will accomplish out of this. Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, look, the kingdom is heaven, then the birds of heaven will precede you. If they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you. Our life experience right here is what is heaven or hell, depending on what we hold inside of us. The people that are teaching you that it's somewhere else out there, or it's someplace off in space, or it's somewhere supernatural, yeah, that's who it's talking about right here. Yeah. They're not pointing the right way. It's inside, not outside. I'm going to jump around a little bit and go to verse number 23. Jesus said, I shall choose you 1 from 1,000 and 2 from 10,000, and they will stand as a single one. It's time to bring that verse in right now, because if you're watching it at this point, you're probably one of those. In all of the teachings and all the mythologies, if you were to go through the hero's journey, one of the very first steps is a selection process where there is a narrowing down. And right here, boom, you have it. There's not going to be too many. 1 from 1,000, That sounds like one. If you're a single person, perhaps you're easier to do this. It's more common. However, 2 out of 10,000, if you're unified with somebody, and if you're in a relationship perhaps with someone, it's a lot less common because the two of you have to really work together. It's easier for you to be. When you're looking to become one, you're looking to take the two parts of yourself and get rid of the part that creates the division so that you become single again, so that you become one. And that's what the accomplishment is here. And when two people are together, sometimes there's clashes and sometimes there's issues that are difficult to resolve, that if you are by yourself, you don't have that, you don't have somebody else's baggage that you have to deal with. And I don't mean baggage. I'm happily married. My wife and I are good. I'm interpreting the verse here, though, and saying that this looks like a process where, there's a selection process in letting us know that not many people make it to this point. It's not for everybody. Verse 48, Jesus said, if two make peace with each other in a single house, they will say to the mountain, move from here, and it will move. Okay, yeah, the verses are psyche, right? We have to make peace with each other in one house. This is the house, and we have become divided in life, and we've got that part of us we don't want to deal with. If we deal with that and cease carrying it as some creature that's acting out that we're pretending like it isn't there, our lives will change. We will be able to move mountains. We will flow better in life. Your life will experience much better. You will experience a much better life. I mumble sometimes. If you do this, if you make peace with yourself in your own house, in yourself. Check out 102. Jesus said, woe to the Pharisees, for they are like a dog sleeping in the cattle manger, for it does not eat or let the cattle eat. Okay, this one doesn't exactly play out inside, but it's metaphoric with analogs. What this is a reference to is the Pharisees were people who were teaching the scripture to the people in a supernatural way. They were teaching how to praise God, how to worship, how to sacrifice animals, how to, be a good Jew. Pharisees. And the Pharisees didn't understand this nested part of the scripture. They're teaching people supernatural this, supernatural that, blah, blah, blah. They are teaching people at that time, the cattle. Who are they? That's us. That's us people who are the peasants. We don't read. We don't write. There's no schools. There's no books. We rely on the Pharisees to tell us what's there. So the Pharisees are telling us what there is. They're not teaching us how to find it for ourselves. We rely on them. The Pharisees are the people who are not teaching this inner teaching. And what we want to eat is food. We want to consume. Spiritually, we're hungry. We want something to consume. But the Pharisees are like the dog that's preventing us from getting that. Yeah, sounds rough, doesn't it? Check this out. Aesop's Fables, watch. This is number 72. It's called The Dog in the Manger. A dog was lying on a manger on the hay which had been put there for the cattle, and when they came and tried to eat, he growled and snapped at them and wouldn't let them get at their food. What a selfish beast, said one of them to his companions. He can't eat himself, and yet he won't let those eat who can. Okay, so this is about 500 years prior to the Gospel of Thomas. This work was already out there. You see a little bit different verbiage in a fable. You've got animal components, and that got changed out to the Pharisees. But it's the same lesson with a little bit different shift in the verbiage. That's one of those that's very spot on, similar to C. The teachings from that region are this way. Okay, now that we've spotted, we're supposed to go inward and not outward. Let's keep going, moving along here. I just want to establish that up front. That's very important. 37. His disciples said, when will you appear to us, and when shall we see you? Jesus said, when you strip without being ashamed, and take your clothes and put them under your feet like little children, and trample them. Then you will see the child of the living one, and you will not be afraid. They're metaphoric and analogs. In the world, we cover our nakedness. In the spiritual world, we cover our shame. We put garments on. Those are analogous to putting anger or some kind of walls up between us and what our issues are. Those are things that we have up. And they prevent us from having life. This is an instruction on healing. When you can take your garments off, when you can strip off the things that you have covered over yourself and you put them under your feet, this is you elevating yourself above them. If someone wanted to, they could stretch that interpretation out till the idea emerges that you are using your past pain to separate yourself from the physical to a higher plane. That one doesn't matter. Honestly, what matters is the idea that you are supposed to be able to stand spiritually naked, which means I have nothing to hide. Yeah, that's it. When that happens, you got freedom. Okay, ones like this, you got to be very careful with. I'm going to jump over to 49. Jesus said, "Blessed are those who are alone and chosen, for you will find the kingdom. For you have come from it, and you will return there again." The chosen is the difficult one, and I guarantee it must have looked that way to them. It still looks that way now, today, because so few people go after it. I don't think there's any mystical chosen. I think that from an evolutionary standpoint, the people who tend to look at this have a different kind of outlook, a different sensitivity, introverted feelers. The people that would have evolved on the outskirts of the group that kept an eye on things. I don't know. I stretch and look for what that could be because I don't believe there's anything supernatural. Although everybody always refers to this kind of chosen selection. There's some smaller group of people that go through it. So yeah, there is a smaller group. But what is that? What makes that happen? I don't know. Okay, I'm going to keep grabbing just some imperative ones. And there's a lot of similarities in the verses. There's a lot of verses in there and maybe 15 or 20 different solid lessons in the midst of all of them. This is 45. Jesus said, "Grapes are not harvested from thorn bushes, nor are figs gathered from thistles, for they yield no fruit. A good person brings forth good from the storehouse. A bad person brings forth evil things from their corrupt storehouse in the heart, and says evil things. For from the abundance of the heart, this person brings forth evil things." This is actually an admonishment for all of us, every one of us. Everything that emerges from us comes from inside of us, and we have to be able to observe that. If we have things that are like trees that are not producing figs, are analogous to just having things in life that you're dragging along that you need to let it go, that you need to, they're a waste. Maybe they're not hurting you particularly, but they're preventing you from moving on. Then there are other things in here that are bad, that are evil, that you want to get rid of. You're looking at here as a teaching about cleaning out your house, but also realizing and recognizing that what emerges from you is what is inside of you. To self-observe, to be able to step back after that outburst or whatever the case may be and go, okay, what did I do this time? What triggered it? Where does it come from? I'm carrying that with me. That emerged from me. I know I got triggered. I know something happened, but that was just a trigger. You have to get to that point. And the verses don't exactly push you that hard, but from what we know from modern psychology, that's exactly what we have to do. And the more you pull out, the more the life is better. And I can tell you that experientially. This is the part, though, where it's demonstrable, right? Pretty much so. Not exactly like, here, watch, I can construct this right here. But you look at the process and realize, okay, there's a mental process that created me. There's a mental process I have to do to manipulate what is there. And upon completion of that and allowing life to unfold and change, things are going to be different for me. That's what this is teaching. 54. Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven." Up here, kingdom of heaven within. Kingdom of heaven is Jesus' version of nirvana, peace, mental, yeah, I feel good. Life's good. Yeah, life's good. That is the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of heaven within, or nirvana, all of that. And blessed are the poor. We can't have that in the physical world, can we? What are you going to do if you're poor? It can't make any sense. It is not a blessing to be poor. Doesn't mean it's a blessing to be greedy. But it's just not a blessing to be poor. Poor in this case means devoid of your spirit, your soul. You're looking to become empty again. You can see that they're all hinting towards this same concept over and over again of getting rid of what you're going to end up getting rid of. Not everything that hurts you. Some things are just judgments. I believe this or I believe that. I have this conviction or that conviction because I've watched the news so repetitively that I believe that about this people or about those people or something. And maybe that doesn't make you feel in any way hurt, but it's not good. They're not good feelings. All of that stuff, everything that are judgments are parts of you, of your psyche that you have tied up with something that you can call an entity and leave it in place. And it's not available for anything except for that, except for what you've classified it as. You can't use it for anything else. Yeah, the bigger it is, the less there is available for what you want. When DVDs say that other stuff is called so what, just forget about it. Every teacher from antiquity is saying, ooh, take care of this stuff and everything will work out fine. You don't have to try. You don't have to put out effort to overcome your baggage if you find a way to set down your baggage. And that entails healing. Looking inward. These continue to move on like that. Some get crazy. Not all of them are inward looking. Sometimes they're just telling you that this is kind of what life is going to be like. And it continues on like this. The stories, some verses are short and some are bigger stories. The one about getting your land back or inviting people over for dinner and having all of these elements in there to have those play out inside of your psyche. What are you looking at? Basically, you're looking at this up here as being your mind, your space, your world. All of those are analogous to your mental sanctity, your space. Do you have control over this, or is what you have put away when you're not paying attention controlling you? That right there. You want this land. You want this space. You want to get rid of everything that is in there. This is your temple. This is all of those things. You're just looking to purge all of the judgments, and you're looking to forgive the people that hurt you. I'm going to talk about that one a little bit. That's not in here, but that is an important part of this because it's difficult to make these things work. It's not an on-off switch. If you've been really, really hurt, we're very practiced and very networked into that pain. And we're very practiced in a culture and a society that says, oh, tough it out, you big baby. Keep it inside. Man up, whatever, all those things. When it's like, actually, that is the worst possible thing we can spiritually do. That is what divides us. That is what screws us up. That is what makes us become messed up and do stupid things that later go, I don't know why I did that. Yeah, we're divided. We're carrying crap. All of it is letting that go. But the things that are difficult with are the ones that we feel like we're victims and we don't want to let that stuff go. But the reality of it is those things that we hold inside of us continue to act out and continue to hurt us. So addressing them is difficult. These teachings tell you to go someplace that any psychiatrist would say, ooh, don't do this without help. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm just teaching the teachings here. Like I told you, I'm pretty clinical about it. Although in my life I have been suicidal, so be careful, yeah. This is being able to take the people who have hurt you and look at them in a light that is a way that you've disconnected from the pain of it. And that is difficult to dismiss our victim status. You must have to emerge from yourself. Imagine yourself viewing yourself. Practice doing that, seeing yourself, seeing like you're way up high and seeing society way down below. When you're down there, you see yourself in the midst of that and having experiences and other people having all these experiences. Observe that from up an elevated position and then reach down and grab yourself and lift yourself up out of that and let that other part of you look around and see that there's something bigger going on. Practice that to start with, separating yourself from an isolated moment in time and realizing that we are parts of a big network and that we're trying to emerge. We're trying to leave that network behind. and that maybe we came from a bad place, but we're here and we can get through that. I'm really gotten off from the Gospel of Thomas here, aren't I? I'm going to end this and keep it short. I think that the procedure is what is more important than going through all the verses. I went through and I decoded all the verses. I want to say I don't know to a lot of them. There are some that are like, I don't get it. That's weird. But this is what all of the teachings regionally are getting to. I don't find anything magical or mystical. And yeah, this goes back to Sumer and Mesopotamia. And it's in Greek mythology, different vehicle. There are different ways of carrying this. If you are in search of the golden fleece and you're Jason and the Argonauts and you start off as Jason, you're selected as the hunter. Then you must leave that island behind, indicating leaving your past behind. Then you sail through the narrow passage. All of these are the passageways. They're different vehicles of carrying that teaching. We actually see vestiges in that in Genesis, right? You become Moses. What do you have to do? You have to escape Pharaoh. You have to escape your past. At first, you're allowed to go, and then it comes after you. It's difficult to leave your past. Then you have to part the Red Sea, going through the narrow passage. These elements are all in there, and they're all teaching us to go inside and find nirvana, the kingdom of heaven within, the golden fleece, the Holy Grail. Yeah, Canaan, heaven. There are different analogs for carrying the same teaching. Once we see that and we make the teachings parts of our psyche and decode them this way, this is the results. Everywhere. You could go to places, though, and find that this isn't there. Every Christian book written after the Bible by a Christian who's trying to do a better job explaining the church and Christianity, this teaching is not there. They didn't know it was in there. The Book of Mormon, Joseph Smith had no idea. There are places this doesn't exist, and there are places it does. And it's once you unlock it like this, you see the evidence of it where it is and where it isn't. It is an inspired work. It is what would be called a living verse. What does that mean when it becomes a part of my life? Yeah, it is. All of it is. Greek mythology is kind of guilt-free. You know, they treat it like, it's time to stop sowing my wild oats and get on with my life and become, a responsible adult. Theism comes along and teaches you that, oh, you are guilty, you sinner, you are worthless. Yeah, there's a radical difference in the carriers of that teaching. They both carry the teaching. Boy, net hell. Anyway, leave comments or questions below. I would rather, like I said, this time just teach how to do it and not go into the interpretation. This is not something you tell people. Here, let me lead you. This is something you give people and they either use it or they don't. Anyway, love one another and hope you enjoyed the video.